Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. Today, we've got a bit of an emergency episode, a bit of a quick one. We've got the whole gang here today. We've got Tom, we've got Jacob, we've got Izzy, and we've got me, Sam. And we've come in very quickly to talk about the big news that was announced today by the WSL, which is that the clubs in the WSL voted to expand to 14 teams in a couple of years' time. So that means that this season coming, there will be at least two, if not potentially three teams coming up from the newly named WSL2. There will be the champion and the runners-up will both be automatically promoted, and we will see a third place. The third place in the WSL2 will have a playoff game against the team that comes last in the WSL. So at the end of next season, we'll have 14 teams in the WSL for the following season, whoever they may be. I think this is a really good move from the WSL/WSL2, etc. to do this. I think the league does need expanding. I think this is quite a good way to do it. Tom, I'm going to throw it over to you first. Let me hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I completely agree, Sam. I think it's really good. It's really positive. It's what we've been calling for this for a while. Even on this podcast, we've had conversations about this, like saying how necessary this was. And yeah, I think it's especially in the wake of how good the end of last season's championship was, with two brilliant teams facing off in the final game. It would be brilliant to see those two would have just been promoted under this new system. So they both deserved it, really, because they're both fantastic across the season. So I think overall a really good thing. My only slight hesitation is that I'm not a huge fan of the playoff between the team that finishes last in the WSL with the third place team. I just think that's, if you finish bottom of the WSL, I think you deserve to get relegated, to be honest. And I feel like it might have been better to do, well, maybe they'll do this in the future, but I would have rather seen like third playoff against fourth in the championship than. But that's pretty nitpicking on this level. I'm sure this is just the start of a lot of changes. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what all the panel thinks.
Yeah, I think it's like you say. I think that it's fine for one season. I think we can just sort of push it aside that one team might not get relegated. I think realistically, if you look at the cup games that have been over recent years, the WSL teams always beat what was championship teams. So realistically, the team finishing last in the WSL this season probably will win that game, especially when there's no obvious worst team this season, because I think London City Lionesses is going to be a bit stronger than Bristol and Palace that have come up the last couple of years. But yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward. Jacob, what are your thoughts on it? Because obviously this is, an extra couple of teams to beat Spurs next season, or the season after anyway.
Oh dear, already a dig on the emergency pod.
It didn't take long.
It didn't take long. No, as Tom said, I think it's fantastic for the league as well. Sam, in one of the first pods that I was on with you, we were discussing kind of the initial discussions around what might happen with expansion in the league, however true or not the rumours were of kind of not having relegation, and just kind of the potential avenues that you could go down. I think, especially for the short term, I think this is probably one of the best ways that they could have done it. Tom, I think in regard to the point that you made about the kind of playoff, I'm pretty sure, if I read it correctly, I think that's only for next season, for 25-26, just so then you can basically get to 14 teams. And I think from 26-27, it's basically one up from the WSL2, one down from the WSL, and then I think there's a playoff between second last in the WSL2 and second last in the WSL, and second top in the WSL 2. I think the 2 points that I was going to make in regard to why I think it's a good decision are, the first one is, I think actually for scheduling and for games, I think it's really good. I think maybe less so for you guys because Arsenal were in the Champions League, but especially for teams that kind of aren't in Europe, the season feels very stop-start. You'll have a couple of weeks where there's games midweek and then games on the weekend, and then you won't play for 2 or 3 weeks. and it's just very stop-start. Obviously, there's the long winter break, which I think will still be in play, but I think adding in those 2 extra teams, adding in those 4 extra games will just allow the season to be a bit more free-flowing. I think for teams lower down in the WSL and for teams higher up in the WSL2, I think there'll be lots of positives out of this. Obviously, we've seen Bristol and Crystal Palace get promoted and then relegated straight back after promotion, as the kind of WSL as a league settles. So I think for teams like London City Lionesses, who have just come up, for teams like Palace who have just gone down and hopefully looking to come back up, and for other teams like we saw Birmingham challenge last season in WSL2 and perhaps Newcastle as well, I think it will be really good for competitiveness, and also hopefully for some of the lower WSL teams, including Spurs. Hopefully there'll be a bit more of a kind of injection in revenue, a bit more investment into the teams.
Yeah, I think because you've got to try a bit harder to not get relegated, really, now, haven't you? Because, well, 1 in 7 of the places could see you going down rather than 1 in 12 at the moment. But, well, one of the other fantastic things that will come out of this is, obviously, like you said, Jacob, there are more matches. There is a bit of talk about, is the calendar already too full? I really don't think the calendar's already too full. I think as someone that's grown up watching the men's game and seeing how much fuller that's got, and that is really getting to breaking point, the WSL is not close to that. I think even the WSL teams that play the most games maybe do about the same as a Premier League season, never mind the cups and stuff on top of that. So, yeah, I think there's still room to expand. I think 14 teams, hopefully, in time won't be the sort of the end of it. I'd like to see it grow bigger in time, but we'll do it bit by bit and see how it goes. But yeah, the other thing with being a couple of extra teams means 4 more games, and it means 4 more fantasy game weeks.
Great. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that will be really exciting, and I also think it. Yeah, from a selfish perspective, it adds more fun to the fantasy game, doesn't it? If you've got playoffs, and I'm sure there's like fun things we can do around that and play with. I haven't had a chance today to look into the nitty gritty, so I'm very grateful to you three for giving me a rundown on who's playing who in which season. Because yeah, I also just them being called WSL and WSL2 is already confusing me. So the whole playoff structure is something I definitely have to get used to. But no, I do agree. I think it's really positive. I think the lower half of the WSL needs that injection of sort of competition, because I think we are reaching a kind of point where people need to be pushed to invest, and they need to be pushed to kind of pay more attention to their women's teams and really up that competition. I guess on the playing time thing, I totally agree that I think the season can be longer, and I think generally that's a good thing. I'm always a bit of a Debbie Downer when it comes to this, but I think, like with everything, it will work if the investment and the infrastructure matches it. And for me, that's something we need to see. I mean, obviously, the women having the Club World Cup from next season as well. So for some teams, I think more games is good. For others, not so sure. And I think we're gonna have to. Hopefully, we're gonna see a lot more injection of investment, which will make this work really, really, really well. But that is something I am cautiously keeping my eye on, because yeah, I think it's important that we don't overload too quickly. I think always have to remember where women's football's come from, which is, like quite a few championship sides essentially have been playing semi-professional football. So bridging that gap too quickly could be a bad thing. But I think, yeah, hopefully the way they're kind of gradually phasing it in means it will work well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think it's a good point you make about different clubs needing different amounts of games as well. Because I think if you look at the top of the table and your Arsenal's and your Chelsea's, the teams going far in all 4 competitions, well, far in 3 cups anyway, plus obviously playing all the league games, they probably don't really need any more games because they're probably getting as far as they need to. Yes, their squads are a bit bigger, but even so, it's just going to encourage more injuries if you get loads more. Whereas for the lower down teams, almost not having enough games can be just as bad. But yeah, Tom, you look like you want to say something there.
Yeah, I was just going to say about because UEFA have decided to basically have a Nations League or qualifying campaign every 6 months, which is like 6 games, three international windows, and obviously that's outside of like major tournaments as well and friendlies. So I feel like with some players, like as you mentioned at the top clubs, um, it could be an issue. I don't think that the league is necessarily the issue in that equation, but just having more games, especially when we haven't really put enough. Yeah, exactly like Izzy said about how the investment has to match, because if we don't figure out about the frequency of ACL injuries, all of these type of difficulties that the women's game is struggling with, but we keep on adding more games, we're only going to increase the likelihood of more injuries like that happening. We really do need to make sure to take care of player welfare, and not get to a stage where, like you said, Sam, with the men's game at the moment, where it is just a little bit ridiculous the amount that they're having to play.
Yeah, I think that this isn't the only thing. I think there's plenty of things in the men's game. The men's game is obviously a lot more mature than the women's game. It's got a lot further. It's gone a lot further already. And I think there are some things that are good and some things that are bad. And I think as the women's game grows, I think they can pick the good things and ignore the bad things, hopefully. Or at least, encourage the good things and discourage the bad things that we see in the men's game. But I think this is overall a step in a good direction, which I think we all kind of agree with as well, which shows that we're hopefully we're not the only 4 people, and hopefully I haven't heard any sort of other podcasts and media people talk about it yet. So I think people generally will be on the same page. But yeah, that's our view on it anyway. Just a little one from us today, not a full-blown pod. You'll hear from us soon, listener. We've got the same gang, the original gang, I guess, back together. We're going to be doing a Euro 2025 preview. And then myself, Izzy, and Emily Herbert's coming back to have a look at Fantasy Euros as well. So they'll be out in your ears in the next couple of weeks. But for today, thank you very much, listener. Thank you, Tom, Jacob, and Izzy. And we'll speak to you at the next one.